I always tell my colleagues, that good medicine is good business. Healthcare is not just like any other business. It has to be viewed differently. You have to provide returns, that is important, but at no point of time one should forget that the primary stakeholder is the patient and every other stakeholder comes secondary.
Correct.
If I do right by the patient, I am doing right by my shareholder. And that's the philosophy with which we work.
Our guest of the day is Dr. Ashutosh Raghuvanshi. Dr. Raghuvanshi is the Managing Director and CEO of Fortis Healthcare.
Primary care is something which we have not focused on. All the growth which has happened in the country has been in the hospital.
Tertiary care and quaternary.
Tertiary and quaternary care and to some extent the secondary care. We are not really looking at primary care. But those areas need to develop. Unfortunately, there are not many examples even in the private sector.
I agree with you. In private sector also, a lot of startups, they try to come up with the primary care models, but they couldn't survive. What do you feel how this shift can happen where doctors, healthcare professionals, they are using technology and making the difference?
Technology and AI has a role to play if it enhances diagnostic ability of the clinician, the patient experience, if it makes the entire journey better, then it is of value. The healthcare workers should not get overwhelmed with technology. They should feel empowered with the technology. That is what is important. The use of technology, especially artificial intelligence, etc., will keep on increasing. But it will be to make the doctors more efficient and more accurate rather than replacing them. Technology cannot really replace the human touch.
If you have to visualize or envision a hospital after 50 years, how do you see that?
I think very few things will happen in hospital after 50 years. A lot of care will happen at home in general life. It will be more personalized. It would be more genomic based. A lot of procedures are going to change dramatically. Instead of long treatments, there could be genetic manipulation. I think the hospitals would look more like a high-tech lab than a hospital.
You mean to say that precision medicine will take over traditional medicine?
Absolutely.
Hello and welcome to Bold Voices, a Voice of Healthcare original series, where we bring you face-to-face with healthcare leaders and change makers shaping India's healthcare future in association with Polymed. Our guest of the day is Dr. Ashutosh Raghuvanshi. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Dr. Raghuvanshi is the Managing Director and CEO of Fortis Healthcare, a cardiac surgeon by training and one of India's most respected healthcare leaders. Dr. Raghuvanshi brings over 3 decades of experience in building and scaling some of country's most influential healthcare institutions. So, sir, we will have 2 rounds today. One is a broader question round and second is rapid fire round. So let's dive straight into our conversation. So my first question to you is that nowadays a lot of clinicians are moving towards non-clinical role. And I believe that you are one of the pioneers who started early on and you transitioned your journey from operating room to the boardroom. So I want to know what motivated you to, adopt this new path.
Yeah, so it was not a sudden decision and it was no sudden turning point in this journey. Definitely this was not anything new and there had been several people who before me who I can think of straight away who have walked on this path and who have created businesses and are equally proficient clinicians as well, right from Dr. Reddy, who's the forefather of private healthcare in India, to Dr. Trehan, to Dr. Devi Shetty,
yes.
Dr. Panda. There are many, many examples of
doctors choosing this path,
choosing to create institutions. So I don't think there was any novelty in what I did. And traditionally also, as you know, in India, hospitals were managed by doctors.
Yeah.
However, private healthcare is a slightly different paradigm and, there are a lot of factors which need to be balanced. So it's a different thing. So for me personally, what happened was that I used to work with Dr. Devi Shetty. I worked with him for a very long time, about 23 years.
Right.
And during that journey, when we created Narayana Hridayalaya, at that time, Dr. Shetty asked me to run the Calcutta hospital. And also be the chief surgeon over there.
Right.
So I was operating as well as running the hospital. That's what gave me the first kind of exposure to administration.
Right.
I did like doing, but I enjoyed the clinical work more, to be honest. As the time passed and we started growing as a company, the time came that one had to decide whether to focus on which side of the business. And Dr. Chetty said that he is going to continue to operate, and I will have to decide what I want to do. And so I was basically left with no choice in the matter. But I must say that this has been a good run, and I have enjoyed it to a large extent. You make an impact in a different way. As a clinician, you make impact differently.
Yeah.
But as a administrator or a business person, you make impact in a different
much larger impact.
It's a much
larger impact. Yeah, you are touching many lives while you. I mean, as a doctor, when you are practicing, you are touching limited lives. But when you are, into administration, you are taking care of so many patients. Very interesting, Dr. Raghuvanshi. And I'm sure during this journey, you must have faced lot of challenges. I mean, you said that you spent 23 years at Narayan Hrudayalaya, and after that also, so in this leadership role. So if you can enumerate one or two big challenges, so that would be really good for our audience.
I would say that, that challenges come in this role on a daily basis.
Exactly.
Some may be small, some may be big. Yeah. But each challenge has its own importance and its own learnings which come with it. And that's how we grow.
Correct.
And for me, the entire learning was on the job, because I am not a trained management professional. I am a trained doctor. Yeah. So I had to learn on the job. Having just said that, there are a couple of incidences, or rather occasions I can remember. One of them was that at one stage of growth in my previous company, we commissioned a lot of new hospitals, greenfield hospitals. And that time we suddenly found ourselves in a situation where cash flows started becoming tight.
Right.
And that was a difficult decision. We had to raise fresh funding at that time. But also at the same time shut one of the operations, which was not doing too well. Yeah. And that was a very difficult decision for me, because as a clinician, I was quite, attached to it and didn't want to give up. As a clinician, you don't want to give up, and you just think that, that you would probably make a difference and let the place grow. So that was a pretty difficult decision. But what I learned from that in the business valley is that cash flow is extremely, extremely important, and you have to pace your growth.
Correct.
Your growth has to be completely synchronized with the fund flow and other areas. So that is very, very important. So that discipline in growth
absolutely
is something which I learned from that phase of
I can fully appreciate this thing. And, in startup world, there is a phrase that cash is king. Very interesting incident. So, Dr. Raghuvanshi, India is a very large country, and almost, now 1.5 billion people. If we talk about disease burden, there is a clear shift from infectious diseases to these lifestyle diseases, chronic conditions. There's a clear shift. And from public health standpoint, from the lens of public health, what do you think? Where are we heading towards? And I mean, what is the future of this, problem? I mean, how we have to come out of this as well. So, what are your views on this?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right that the disease burden is shifting more towards lifestyle diseases and the chronic ailments. But at the same time, India has a unique situation where you have enough infectious disease as well.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, over the years, though we have some examples of great success on the public health side, like, for example, the Pulse Polio program and similar things about the mass immunization programs, those have been very, very successful in post-independent India. But primary care is something which we have not focused on. all the growth which has happened in the country has been in the hospital. It has been very hospital-centric growth.
Tertiary care and quaternary.
Tertiary and quaternary care, and to some extent the secondary care. But primary care has completely lagged. The whole concept of family physicians, for example, is almost not there anymore.
Non-existent.
Which is, to my mind, a very negative thing. And if we have to improve the indicators of health in the country, and make a robust system and remove wastages from the tertiary quaternary care, then we have to create a robust primary healthcare system. And I think a lot of focus has to be there. Hospitals such as ours, we focus only on tertiary, quaternary, acute care kind of scenarios.
Absolutely.
We are not really looking at primary care. But those areas need to develop. Unfortunately, there are not many examples even in the private sector where such models have been very successful.
Yeah, I agree with you. In private sector also, a lot of startups, they try to come up with the primary care models, but they couldn't survive. Yeah, I agree with you. So, Dr. Raghuvanshi, if I talk about technology and AI are paving the way in all industries. And when it comes to healthcare, there is an inherent resistance, especially amongst doctors, healthcare professionals. They feel that if they have good clinical skills, they don't need any technology. So, what do you feel how this shift can happen where doctors, healthcare professionals, they are adopting technology, they are using technology and making the difference?
The usage of technology in healthcare has been minimal. We use the highest kind of technology in our equipment, but when it comes to processes and other things, we don't use technology that much. That is changing. Technology certainly has a role to play, but technology and AI has a role to play if it enhances the diagnostic ability of the clinician, if it enhances the patient experience, if it makes the entire journey better, then it is of value. However, if the role of clinician is important, the healthcare workers should not get overwhelmed with technology. They should feel empowered with the technology. That is what is important. But in my view, the use of technology, especially artificial intelligence, etc., will keep on increasing.
Correct.
But it will be to make the doctors more efficient and more accurate, rather than replacing them. Technology cannot really replace the human touch.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Dr. Raghuvanshi, if I talk about healthcare facilities in India, 80% of healthcare facilities are in unorganized sector. I mean, these facilities are unorganized. And we have a couple of hospital chains in India, and 80% of nursing home, hospital diagnostic centers, they are run by, single doctor, single owner kind of a setup. And today we are also talking about value-based healthcare. Do you think larger organization, larger, hospital chains, they will get a hit if we apply yardstick of value-based healthcare across these hospitals? So what is your opinion about that?
Typical fee-for-service model is got its own limitations. Several countries which have tried that have really demonstrated, and you can see that in India as well. So value-based care is something which we should transition to. But in order to do that, we need to have a proper ecosystem which is developed and where every component is working efficiently. The hospital chains are only part of the ecosystem.
Correct.
They are not taking care of the entire linear journey of an episode of illness or kind of a health of a patient per se.
Yeah.
So if they have no influence on patients' lifestyle choices, exercise choices, etc., and they have no control on what kind of follow-ups they are doing, what is their compliance level of medicines, then they cannot be penalized for a bad outcome.
Yeah.
So I think we have a long way to go before we can truly embark on value-based system. And I don't think there is any real world example of where of any country where this has really worked out very well. Even in US scenario, you can see that.
Yeah.
However, I do believe personally that models such as Kaiser, which are kind of an integrated models and which also influence to some extent patients' lifestyle choices, or at least it guides them towards the right kind of choices to be made. Those systems are the ones which we should gradually transition towards. It may not be a single organization. It may be that that there is a primary care provider. But the journey is linear, and that's where the digital mission becomes very important. The BDM becomes very important. That linearity of patient records will be there.
Integrated care.
In my view, the larger hospital chains have a role, have a positioning, which is not going to change because acute procedures, complex illnesses are going to be there, however good the lifestyle choices may be there.
Absolutely.
So they have a role to play in the ecosystem. So I don't see it as something which is going to impact this business, at least not in the short term.
Understood. Healthcare is capital intensive, people intensive, trust intensive. How do you balance growth, quality, and patient trust simultaneously?
Yes. I think, I always tell my colleagues, that good medicine is good business. Healthcare is not just like any other business. It has to be viewed differently.
Absolutely.
You have to provide returns. That is important. But at no point of time, one should forget that the primary stakeholder for me is the patient. And every other stakeholder comes secondary.
Correct.
If I do right by the patient, I am doing right by my shareholder.
Right.
And that's the philosophy with which we work. And I think that is the most important area to look at. And I'll just give you some examples. Some of the times what happens is that, there is a requirement or requisition for some very expensive equipment. And it appears that this doesn't make business sense. But at the same time, you can't provide good outcomes if you don't have that equipment. And like a CT planner for radiation therapy. If you try to make a business case out of it, it won't be there. So you have to remember medicine at every step when you're making those decisions of capital allocation and how it is utilized.
Beautiful insight. I think really good insight. Dr. Raghuvanshi, now we will jump to our rapid fire session. And this is my favorite part. So my first question to you is, are you an administrator or a doctor? I mean, while you are taking decisions, so which hat you wear, doctors or administrator?
I'm a doctor administrator.
Okay, good answer. Do you still perform surgeries?
No, I don't.
Do you still get calls from your patients you operated upon?
I do, actually. As a matter of fact, before coming here, I attended to one such patient.
And you guide them, you tell them?
I asked them to see one of my colleagues.
Okay.
Yes.
One word or one sentence to describe Indian healthcare today.
Evolving.
One thing that will change hospital care in India.
Technology.
Technology in hospitals, opportunity or distraction?
It's a great opportunity.
I want to know one recent technology adoption that truly impressed you.
Can't really think of one specific thing, but in my view, I think as we become paperless and where the patient records are available to patient seamlessly,
Correct.
That is most important. But one of the things which I have been impressed is about the voice to text technology, which is not specific to health. But it is very important because a lot of doctors in the West complain that half the time they are entering the data in the computer when they're interacting with the patient, which is not very effective. So those things which take the ambient sounds and create medical records, that is a very impressive technology.
The biggest quality issue hospitals struggle with today. One quality issue you think hospitals are struggling with?
I think lack of empathy in a lot of staff is one issue which I think is a struggle.
One quality every doctor must have beyond clinical skills?
That's empathy again.
You must be hiring a lot of new generation doctors. Can I say that Gen Z's doctor? Because the one challenge unique to today's Gen Z's doctor, I want to ask.
Our generation never thought about the working hours.
Yeah.
Now people are thinking about, work-life balance. And in medicine, I think sometimes you have to go beyond call of duty.
Absolutely.
I always, when I was a resident and we used to do 24 hours and 36 hours duties, and people used to say, how do you do it? And, oh, this is not done. I always used to say some people have to stay awake so that others can sleep.
Correct.
And I think it is, you choose a profession, you choose everything which comes with it.
I also, during my residency days, I also have done 24 hours, 36 hours duty. And we never complained. We used to thought that this is a routine.
Yes.
Because everybody else was also doing the same thing.
Yes.
One misconception people have about private hospitals.
I think they don't realize that private hospital has got the infrastructure to pay for, which a public hospital doesn't have to pay for.
Yeah.
So that is why their difference in prices sometimes looks very unrealistic to people.
I always say that still we are cheaper than the West.
Though that is a fact, but unfortunately the perception is otherwise.
Right. One thing Indian healthcare does better than the West.
I think the speed with which we deliver care is...
One thing Indian healthcare must urgently fix.
I think the wastage which happens in our system because of non-linearity of care, primary healthcare and secondary tertiary is not happening so I think we must fix our primary healthcare immediately.
Right. You spoke about primary healthcare earlier as well. Decision making, data or instinct?
It's mainly data, but instinct plays an important role. But data is very important as well.
Data more than instinct.
Yes.
One leadership habit you never compromise on.
Listen before give your opinion.
Right. And my last question to you is, where do you see healthcare after 50 years, especially if you have to visualize or envision a hospital after 50 years? How do you see that?
I think very few things will happen in hospital after 50 years. Lot of care will happen at home in general life. It will be more personalized. It would be more genomic based, and that is how it is going to be different. A lot of procedures are going to change dramatically. Instead of long treatments, there could be, genetic manipulations and things like that. I think the hospitals would look very, very different. They'll look more like a high-tech lab than a hospital.
You mean to say that precision medicine will take over traditional medicine?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Raghuvanshi. Thank you very much for sharing your journey and insights with us today. Your perspective on leadership, institution building, and patient-centric care offers valuable lessons for everyone shaping India's healthcare ecosystem. Thank you for joining us on Bold Voices, a Voice of Healthcare original series in association with Polymed. We look forward to bringing you more conversation with leaders who are shaping the future of healthcare in India. Thank you very much.
Thank
you, sir.
Thank you so much.
You.